This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Utah Phillips, legendary folk musician, peace and labor activist, has died. He passed away in his sleep in Nevada City Friday night. He died of congestive heart failure. He was 73 years old. A memorial service is being planned for Sunday. Over the span of nearly 4 decades, Utah Phillips worked in what he referred to as the trade, performing tirelessly for audiences in large and small cities throughout the United States, Canada, and Europe. His songs were performed by Emmylou Harris, Waylon Jennings, Joan Baez, and Arlo Guthrie. He earned a Grammy nomination for an album he recorded with Ani DiFranco and was awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Folk Alliance. Born Bruce Duncan Phillips in 1935, he later adopted the name Utah from where he grew up. The son of labor organizers, Phillips was a lifelong member of the Industrial Workers of the World, known as the Wobblies. As a teenager, he ran away from home and started living as a hobo who rode the rails and wrote songs about his experiences. In 1956, he joined the Army and served in the Korean War, an experience he would later refer to as the turning point of his life. In 1968, he ran for the U.S. Senate on the Peace and Freedom Party ticket. For the past 21 years, he's lived in Nevada City, California, where he started a nationally syndicated folk music radio show called Loafer's Glory, produced at community radio station KVMR. He also helped found the Hospitality House homeless shelter and the Peace and Justice Center there. Today, we spend the hour hearing Utah Phillips in his own words. In January 2004, I had a chance to sit down with Utah for an extensive interview. We met at the pirate radio station Freak Radio Santa Cruz, where Utah had come to perform. I began by asking him why he arrived at least a day early to any city or town where he performed.
When you have an engagement, at least in my world, the world that I create for myself, the engagement doesn't begin when you hit the stage and end when you leave the stage. It begins when you hit the city limits, and it ends when you leave the city limits. There's a whole lot going on in that town. My trade is like being paid to go to school, and every town is its own teacher. Every town that's my university. And there are marvels and wonders. There's the hobos from hell or from Santa Cruz. They're young people riding on the freight trains, and they're better at it than I ever thought I would be. You got the Homeless Garden Project. You've got just an enormous rich community here. I was involved some years ago in helping to organize the Street Singers Guild in this town, and it you got to beat the streets and learn from the people, and then you've got to get on their stage, and having done that and been with those people, let that audience know that you're not just doing the show you did in the town the night before. You know, you got to know who you're with and where you are. That's very important to me, and they've got to know that I understand that, and I'm really there for them.
Let's start out where you started out. Where were you born? When were you born?
I was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1935.
And how did you start on this journey? When did you begin singing, storytelling?
Oh, mercy, I think we're all storytellers. You know, you think of the excuses you told your parents for why you got home late. So I just never gave it up. I left home, I went up to work in Yellowstone National Park. During high school, I was going to make some summer money. I went up on the freight trains, and it's for the first time I rode the freight trains, and I worked on a road grading crew. And at that time, I was playing the ukulele and singing ersatz Hawaiian music, Johnny Noble, things like that, Lovely Hula Hands, Malahini Mele. The other hands working on that crew, a lot of them were old alcoholics who could only shovel gravel, but they knew songs. And late at night, you know, there would be a fire. We lived in these clapboard shanties. They sang old songs, Jimmy Rogers, and they sang old Gene Autry songs I'd never heard, but were much closer to the way I was living right there at that time. Certainly a lot closer than it is as Hawaiian music. So they showed me how to turn my ukulele chords into guitar chords and taught me those songs. And that's right about then I started making songs in that mold, making songs of what I saw in the world, you know, around me, but using those tune models and those verse models that had endured for so long and will continue to endure simply because they work. So I've been making songs and stories for over 50 years now. It's a way of life. It's like breathing.
War has always seemed to play a major role in defining our times and affected your work as well. You went to Korea?
Yes, I joined the Army. Like old Mrs. Stringfellow said, some people learn things the hard way, but at least then you never forget it. I joined the Army and then got pipelined for Korea. I was there after Panmunjom, after the treaty, right after the treaty, the truce. Life amid the ruins. I mean, it was absolute life amid the ruins. Children crying, that's the memory of Korea. Devastation. I saw an elegant and ancient cultures in a small Asian country devastated by the impact of cultural and economic imperialism, and the impact of an army of young men given unlimited license for excess of every kind, violence, sexual, booze, what have you, drugs, a blueprint for self-destruction. And I knew that if I endured that, I would perish. I would simply perish. It was there in Korea, in that situation, around those kinds of experiences, and I was up on the Imjin River, and I wanted to swim in it because I wanted to wash all that away, all that away, and I was told I couldn't swim in the Imjin, and it was the young Korean there, Yoon Suk-han, who explained to me why I couldn't. He said, when we marry, we move into our grandparents, in with our grandparents, but the place is devastated. There's nothing growing. It's all dead. So when the first child comes, somebody has to leave, and it's the old man. The grandfather will leave and go sit on the bank of the Imjin with a jug of water and a blanket until he dies, and will roll down into the water. He said, you can't swim in the Imjin because those are our elders being carried out to sea. Well, that's when I cracked, that's when I broke up. I said, I can't do this anymore. This is all wrong. It all has to change, and the change has to begin with me. Right then that I decided that the idea of manhood that I'd been given, that blueprint for self-destruction, that my father had lied to me about manhood, my drill instructors, my army sergeants, my scoutmaster, my gym instructor in high school, they'd all lied to me about what manhood was, and it was up to me to begin to figure out what it really meant.
How did you do it?
Painfully. Painfully. It takes a long time to shut up and listen. It takes a long time just to plain shut up and listen. I tell you, what I learned was, I decided that the great struggles, the wars that you're talking about, it could be the Bosnian War, it could be the Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge, it could be the Korean War, it could be the Iraqi War, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all, the thing they all have in common is that it's young men with guns doing it to everybody else. Women aren't doing it, kids aren't doing it, old people aren't doing it, disabled people aren't doing it. It's young people with guns, that are doing it to everybody else. And we don't have a problem with violence in the world. We've got a serious male problem. And I bought into it, so I know, and I'm buying myself out of it, you see. That's terribly, terribly important for me, for people to understand that and begin to shut up and listen. The most important movement in the world is the feminist movement. If we can really figure out what's going on between men and women, the other problems will take care of themselves. I'm sure of it.
We're talking to Utah Phillips. We're broadcasting on Democracy Now! And doing it at Free Radio Santa Cruz, which is also broadcasting us live, known as Freak Radio. And Utah Phillips is going to be performing tonight before, well, many hundreds of people. And he's been in places with a couple of people. He's been singing alone, or he's been singing before thousands. Actually just came off of a concert tour with Ani DeFranco? Oh,
no. I don't tour anymore because of this congestive heart failure. I only leave town about once a month, if that. Ani and I will share the stage, when we happen to be in the same area. She'll invite me to go and do that. I should mention that tonight, I'm not doing this show by myself. It's called A Circle of Friends. It's like a living room where some good friends of mine, Bodie Busick, great guitarist and a fine songmaker, and Paul Cam and Eleanor McDonald, who are up from Nevada County, the town I live in. We're going to sit on the stage and share songs and stories together. And that's the way that I want it to be.
Well, I wanted to continue on this idea of confronting violence and how you became a pacifist. How long were you in Korea?
I was there for 18 months, and I extended for some months. I can tell you exactly how.